Welcome to Super Connections. I am your host, Jennifer K. Hill, helping you with the golden triangle of connection, where you will super connect to yourself, others, and your purpose. Join me each week as I will share from some of my favorite tips and tools for super connecting, and I'll bring in some of my favorite friends and thought leaders to help support you on your journey to super connecting to the life of your dreams. Hello, friends, and welcome back for another episode of Super Connections. This is episode 11, a very special, powerful one on forgiveness. One of the biggest things that prevents us from living our dream life, from deeply, intimately being in relationships, romantically, friendship, or business, and most importantly, having a deep, meaningful relationship with ourselves, is a lack of forgiveness. So often we all feel shame and guilt about the things that we did wrong or things we feel that other people should have done better. And in fact, if you look at David Hawkins' levels of consciousness, he talks about shame and guilt being some of the lowest levels of consciousness. And as we evolve higher and higher, eventually we hit levels of consciousness such as courage at level 200, rational thinking at level 400, and of course, eventually getting to love at level 500, joy at 550, and peace and enlightenment above 600 and 700. So why do I share this today? If any of you out there are listening and maybe you have somebody who hurt you, who betrayed you, I don't think any of us has ever gone unscathed in our lives where we don't have somebody who hurt our feelings or maybe bullied us or traumatized us at some point in our life. What if we could let that resentment and anger go? I'm going to share with you an interesting story about this that happened to me years ago and how it led me to one of my favorite tools that I often use now called the Ho'oponopono prayer. And I'll share with you a lovely story about that as well. So many years ago, I was building a recruiting company and I had a lot of friends who came to work with me at the time. And at this particular time, there was one friend who came to work with me who I loved. She was amazing, really great performer. And something happened. Now, I've never shared this story publicly, so I'll keep all the names confidential, but I'll tell you what happened. This person needed to go on a leave of absence. I won't even say what the leave was related to, but they just needed to take some time off. And my attorney at the time begged me and said, "You're a small company." I think I had 4 people at the time. She said, "You need to terminate the position, and then when this person is better, they can come back and join you again." And so I was torn. This person was a friend, and I didn't want to leave them in a lurch without a job or without medical insurance. So long story short, I wound up keeping the person's job open. And when this person came back to work after several months of a leave, the person asked to be paid on commissions for anything that was missing or that had happened while this person was on this leave. And I was really, I wished I could have. I said, "I wish I could have. I was able to keep your job open, but I had to pay other people to do the work while you were gone. I can't pay it. I'm sorry, because I can't pay double commission." And about a week later, the person quit. And fast forward about a week or two after that, it was the only time, knock on wood, I've ever had a legal issue come up in my career. I had a letter from the Labor Board of California saying that I was being taken to court by this person for not having paid wages and commissions. And if I'm being totally honest, I was crushed. I loved this person like a sister, and I was just really sad and hurt by the way this experience went down. And it was around that time that I began working with my business coach, Julian Adler, who shared with me a prayer, this ancient Hawaiian prayer called the Ho'oponopono prayer. Now, it's an ancient Hawaiian prayer that's about release and forgiveness that has been used for many, many years. And it goes something like this: "I apologize. Please forgive me. Thank you for being in my life so that I may love you." And the idea of the Ho'oponopono prayer is you don't have to say it to the person you're angry with. You can actually say it just while thinking of the person. So I could be cooking breakfast, walking the dog, and I could be saying this out loud. "I apologize. Please forgive me. Thank you for being in my life so that I may love you." And so my business coach, Julian, at the time says to me, "Jen, here's what I want you to do. For the next 30 days, 10 times a day, I want you to say this out loud while thinking of this particular person. You're never going to talk to the person. You're just going to say it while thinking of them." And at the time, as it often happens when we have the experience that we've been betrayed or we have the experience that a wrong has been done to us, It was very challenging, if I'm being quite frank, to say this the first few days I began saying it, because I really didn't want to be saying, I apologize, please forgive me, thank you for being in my life so that I may love you, when I felt deep rage and betrayal. So by about halfway through this month of saying this, the pain and the anger and the sense of betrayal really started to lift a little bit. And I kid you not, at the end of those 30 days, that person and I sat down, had a coffee, and came to an amicable solution, and are still friendly with each other to this day. Now, why do I share this? Because it's like that quote that Buddha says, getting angry is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. And I'm going to give you a little bit more backstory on the Ho'oponopono prayer, of a story I had heard for years and never researched up until this moment when I was preparing for this episode. So I'm going to go ahead and reference a story on soultransync.com about Dr. Hew Len. So Dr. Hew Len was a doctor in the late 1980s of a Hawaiian medical institution where they had criminally insane and patients who were in this mental ward. And I'm going to read you this exact story because it literally brought a tear to my eye when I was preparing for this episode right before I'm going to share it with you. The way the story goes is Dr. Hew Len would arrive in the office every morning with a cheerful and tranquil disposition. Dr. Hew Len never made personal visits to the inmates, but he would browse their files from time to time. Strangely enough, things started to change in the mental ward. Before that, the inmates had been fighting, and the people who worked there had been fighting. And eventually, gradually, the prisoners and staff got along with one another. The inmates were less destructive, and the mental ward employees made more initiative to make the ward a better place. Dr. Hew Len worked in the mental ward for almost 4 years, and during that period, prisoners were released and the staff performed their responsibilities dutifully again. Only a few inmates were left, and eventually they were transferred to other wards. The clinic was eventually closed down because barely any inmates were left. Dr. Hew Len says the Ho'oponopono is the process where we say to the divine, I love you, unification, I'm sorry, repentance, please forgive me, forgiveness, and thank you, transmutation. When he was asked what caused the patients to change, his simple answer is always, I was simply healing the part of me that created them. He believed the total responsibility for your life means that everything in your life, simply because it is in your life, is your responsibility. In a literal sense, the entire world is your creation. If you were to take complete responsibility for your life, then everything you see, hear, taste, touch, or in any way experience is your responsibility because it's your life. And what's so synchronistic about this was just yesterday, I was on a daily meditation that I do with a dear friend of mine. Shout out to Ian Lopatin. And yesterday was very special because they actually had somebody from India join us who was a very elevated soul. And I asked her a similar question before I had read this article today about Dr. Hew Len. And I said to her, what about the chaos in the world? What about the anger and the frustration and the dissonance? And she said the exact same thing to me that this doctor referenced over 30 years earlier. She said, every person is the world, and you are every person in the world. Now, this might be hard. Sit with that for a second, and I'll say it again. Every person is the world, and you are the world, just like this doctor said about these inmates that he worked with so many years ago. So I invite us all to look at our lives and to see, who are we incomplete with? Who do we have stories or things we tell ourselves about that we're angry, that we feel betrayed, that we feel resistant to them? And what if we could commit for 30 days? Nobody even has to know you do this. You could do this in the privacy of your own home, 10 times a day for 30 days, to go through that list of people and to say, I apologize, please forgive me, thank you for being in my life so that I may love you. I invite you to try that. Write me about it, comment about it. I would love to hear how this experiment goes for you. I know it's worked in my own life, not only with that circumstance that I referenced with the old colleague of mine, but also in many other circumstances. It is my go-to thing when I notice I'm feeling animosity towards myself or towards anyone else. It is so powerful, by the way, to also put your hand on your own heart We talked about this in terms of inner child work a couple of episodes ago. And put your hand on heart and say, even to yourself with your eyes shut, I apologize. Please forgive me. Thank you for being in my life so that I may love you. And bonus points if you want to do these couple of extra things. There's something I do every night called spiritual accounting that one of my Kabbalistic teachers taught me many years ago. And part of that is I reflect on every day and I write down, how could I have lived today better? Was I unkind? Was I rude? Did I maybe cause pain in somebody else's life? Again, looking at yourself as though you are the world and that anything you did was also being done to yourself, because by you doing it, you're also impacting yourself. So how could you have lived today better? Maybe you had an extra piece of chocolate cake. Maybe it was something mild or mundane like that. Or maybe you were rude to somebody, or maybe moved too quickly or spent more time than you wanted on your phone. So it's an active accounting process of accounting for your day and where you invested your time, money, and energy. Step 2 is to acknowledge yourself and appreciate yourself and say, what am I proud of myself for? I'll often do this in the notes section of my phone every night before bed, or you could write it in a journal. And you might be proud of yourself that you didn't have the second piece of chocolate cake, or that you went for a run, or did meditation, or even that you listened to this episode. Whatever it is, write down a couple of things or whatever you can think of that you're proud of yourself for that day. And finally, write down at least 3 things that you appreciated about that day or you were grateful for. Maybe you were healthy or there was sunshine. Little things like that can make a big difference to begin to notice. And finally, one of my favorite evening practices that I do every night with my husband, and I'm going to offer it to you. It's what my friend Jules calls cleaning the glass between you and anybody in your life so you can see them clearly. Is every night before my husband and I go to bed, whether I'm traveling, he's traveling, or we're together, we make the time to ask each other this question. Have I caused you pain today? Have I caused you pain? And we get curious. So if the other person did experience pain, obviously if there's no, there's not much to talk about. If there's yes, then you never justify, blame, or defend. You can ask clarifying questions and get curious. So say, for example, if I did cause my husband pain, he might say, honey, you were short-tempered, or I didn't like how you rushed our time or spent too much time on your phone earlier when we were together. Then you could ask clarifying questions. Say I said something that hurt his feelings. I might say something like, could you tell me more about that? How could I have said that in a different way that could have landed better for you? So you either just acknowledge it and you say, wow, I apologize. That was not my intention. You can ask clarifying questions. And then the third step that we always do after this, if we did cause one another pain, is you simply say the Ho'oponopono prayer. I apologize. Please forgive me. Thank you for being in my life so that I may love you. And that's the one time where I actually say it out loud to him, is when we're face to face. And you can do this with anybody. You can do it with your business partner. You could do it with colleagues. You could do it with your romantic partner or siblings. You don't have to do it every day. It's just a practice that I have. Though I encourage you, see who you're in conflict with in your life and ask yourself, what could you do in order to get back in communication, to get complete, and to forgive that person? I'm Jennifer Cahill. I'm so grateful that you joined me today. I hope this story inspired you in some way to look at your life, to look at any areas of your life where maybe you're holding on to anger towards yourself, towards somebody else. And what if you could let that go? I invite you to take a baby step today, maybe even just say one Ho'oponopono prayer for yourself after this episode, or do it with me now. Put your right hand on your heart and say to yourself, I apologize. Please forgive me. Thank you for being in my life so that I may love you. Have a beautiful week.